Good morning, happy Tuesday, and it is once again time for Coffee with the Farmer, a resource manager. And today is a special day because we're talking to another farm's alumni. Her name is Cristal Verduzco, and she is with Driscolls, and I'm going to talk about and introduce her in just a little bit, but this is the second time we've had a farm's alumni on Coffee with a Farmer. The first time was with Jenny Lester Moffitt, our very first session. So this is awesome to have yet another alumni on, and I'm looking forward to having a great conversation with Cristal. But before we get started, we'll do our normal round robin of checking in around the state with all of our coordinators in the different parts of California. And today's question is going to be focused on whether or not you've got, hopefully you do, something in your house or in your home that is a reminder of someone who is very special to you, someone who is, you have had a long relationship with in your life, something in your home that reminds you of them and why. So I will start. My name is Mary Kimball. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Land-Based Learning, and I am at my house in Woodland. And I was interested in this question because I have a plant. I know that sounds funny. I have a plant. It's a cactus that I have out in my yard that's actually now multiple cactuses that I've gotten, cacti, that I've gotten from a neighbor. Her name was Carmen. She has since passed away. But she had a beautiful garden, and she would share with me some of her plants that she was really, wanted to make sure carried on. And I'm glad she did, because that house has now gone, or the house is gone, but the house is there, but the yard is gone, and all of her plants, and they completely re-landscaped it. But these beautiful cactus have flowers at this time of year that are very showy and beautiful, and they always remind me of Carmen and her love for her garden. So let's move on to Dana.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dana Baker. I'm the Tehama County Farms Leadership Coordinator, and I'm coming to you from my house in Red Bluff. And this question really kind of hit home with me because I actually had my great-grandmother I had a wonderful relationship with, and her love for quilting just was, that was a passion of hers. And so I actually have several quilts that she has made over her lifetime, one of which was my dad's that she made for him when he was first born and a little boy, and it has all these little cowboy appliques that she cut out, and they're all quilted, and they're all hand quilted. So any of you that know anything about quilting know how many hours go into these, but I have a display of them hanging on a ladder, and I think I have 6 or 7 quilts from her, and they're bright, beautiful, and they remind me of her all the time. So we miss her, and I'd love to pass them on to my children one day.
Yes, I have quilts too from my grandparents. That's awesome. Great grandmother. Okay, Joseph.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Montoya. I'm the Farms Leadership Coordinator for the Sacramento Valley. So I don't have a plant that I received. I will say that I'm an avid collector of the snake plants. They're, home purifiers. They don't require a lot of upkeep. They look really cool. They're very, they're not very big. They don't grow very big necessarily. And they're really cool. But something that I had received from my grandmother was a small swordfish. It's made of wood. She received it from her brother years ago. He worked with wood and metal, just making various art pieces. I still have it. She's still with us, but she gave it to me a few years ago just to hold on to it for the family. So yeah, that's what I received.
Wonderful. Yay. Okay, and let's see, Katie, you're up.
Good morning. My name is Katie Wortman, the Central Valley Farms Leadership Coordinator, coming to you from Fresno. The thing that I have a lot of are pictures around my house, and actually during this quarantine I found a picture from college from myself and one of my late best friends. I'm gonna start crying. And so finding that during quarantine and having like those memories was kind of awesome. And so now I have that picture up in my on my TV set. I have a bunch of pictures, and so it was fun to see that and remember those memories from college.
Giving you strength through those pictures. That's great. Okay, Romy.
Good morning. My name is Romy Wattenbarger. I'm the Kern County Farms Coordinator here in Bakersfield. And I would say mine would also be pictures, as I have a little nephew in Texas. So when they come here, we made a little painting with his little feet on it. So I have it in my room just to, it's hard them being away because it's my first little nephew. So it helps me remind him of him and how much he loves me and I love him. So
Yes, I do FaceTime with my niece.
oh yeah, we have it every day.
That's fun. And I have art too from them. Leti, you're up.
Hi, my name is Leti Hernandez. I run the program in Monterey and Santa Cruz counties. One thing that I have is a hat from the San Diego Rock and Roll Marathon that my dad ran many, many years ago. And it's a great reminder of him and his passion for being active and fit and healthy. And I love wearing it in the garden.
That's great. I love it. It's funny how these little things, right, trigger memories, and that's really special. So Cristal, it's time to introduce you. Cristal Verduzco, who is the supply and forecast management generally for Driscoll's Berry, and Cristal was in the Farms Leadership Program in the San Joaquin region. I believe you are from Stockton area. I can't remember
yes.
exactly. You'll tell us. And you were in our program a few years ago now. I'll let you give the years if you want to. And was one of those people who stayed in contact with us, which is wonderful. And we highly recommend to all the alumni and all of the students out there to stay in touch with us, because we love hearing from you in terms of where your careers have gone and all of the things that impacted you from the farms program and just what you're doing. We love doing that. We love doing letters of recommendation. We love all of that. So please stay in touch with us. But now Cristal has got this amazing job that we always love to hear about, and she has been so helpful to us also with our Monterey Santa Cruz Farms Leadership Program, because Driscoll's has been such a strong supporter and partner with that program. So Cristal, it's great to see you. Even though it's virtual, it's great to see you, and thanks for being on today. And please go ahead and introduce yourself to those who are listening. Tell us more about where you came from and your story.
Good morning. So yes, I grew up in Stockton, California. My family's from the Central Coast, but we ended up in Stockton in the Valley following work. My mom always harvested as I grew up. She either worked in pears in the Stockton area, cherries, almonds, almonds, however you want to. There's a huge debate there on what's the right way.
Yes, there is.
Asparagus, things like that. So we ended up there because of work. And so, yes, I was actually part of the Farms Leadership Program, I think 2005, 2006. So it's been
That sounds great.
Yeah. But it was such a wonderful experience. At that time, I remember being 16, 17, and just really starting to question what it is I wanted to pursue as a career. And so at the end of the day, I knew that whatever I did, I had to be passionate about it. It had to be something that I enjoyed. And so as I started to ask myself those questions, I really just thought of the moments in which I was with my mom in field as the best moments, throughout the year. So then one of my teachers told me about the program and how it was coming around as an option. And so that seemed just right for me to explore careers options in ag and see if it's something I wanted to do. So I did it along with my friends, and we had such a blast just, you know, getting out there. We went to multiple vineyards, I think, and did some stuff with like the NRCS back, some projects. And so I just validated that love for ag and decided to pursue it. Ended up at Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo.
Right.
Did a bunch of internships, which I think is definitely the right way to go for all the students out there. It just gives you that chance to cross things off, if anything. That's definitely what it did for me. And then down the line ended up with Driscolls, and that's where I am today.
And I remember before Driscolls, you had other full-time jobs, right? Before you went to Driscolls? And what were some of those? You don't necessarily have to name the companies, but just the kinds of jobs that kind of led you to where you are now.
Yeah, so before then, I had one
job. Okay.
Full-time job right out of college. So I entered school in 2010. We were right in the middle of recovering from the recession and things like that. So it took me a while to find a job, a few months at least. And since we're used to being busy, a few months is like, oh man, what am I going to do? So I ended up working for a bread company. I majored in ag business, and of course that applies to food processing, etc. But it wasn't exactly where I wanted to be, you know, indoors in a manufacturing plant. But I did that for 1.5 years. And so that was, you know, working in a union-based workforce, graveyard shifts and things like that. So it was definitely one of the toughest experiences for me. But I appreciate it so much now because I learned so much from it, you know, just in dealing with different personalities. I was a supervisor on the graveyard shift.
Wow.
Working with individuals with 30+ years of experience while I had just finished school, you know. So anyway, in the end, it was a really great experience, but it also kept me looking, right, for the right job for me. So that's how Driscolls came along with a specialist role. I applied and they liked the experience I had from like what you were mentioning. Throughout some of my internships, I had the opportunity to work with GIS and mapping fields for them and things like that. So Driscoll said, hey, we need someone with that experience and you're the one. So it worked out.
So you moved on from the specialist position, and I love that, what, you know, your current title, or at least somewhere in that raspberry forecaster role, supply and forecast management. What does that mean? Like, what do you do in forecasting for a company as big as Driscoll's and figuring out, you know, what the product is going to be, when it's going to be harvested, in what part of the world? Like, what do you do in that kind of job?
Yeah, so I wondered the exact same thing as I came on board as a specialist. I'll describe a little bit about that first.
Sure, go ahead.
So being within a region, you're just somewhat that liaison between Driscoll's, the company that markets the fruit, that develops genetics, does all of the cooling for the fruit. You're that liaison between the company and the grower, who's actually an independent grower who, you know, makes all of his decisions towards his farming practices on his own. So you're sort of that middleman and guiding both in filling a certain production curve, right? So I did that for a few years, and I actually used to ask the same question as you did right now to the person that was doing my current job. You call me all the time and you ask me all these questions, but what do you do? What are you doing over there at the corporate?
Yeah.
So Driscoll's, as you know, is a global company. We have production not only throughout, you know, the States here, Canada, Mexico, but South Africa, Australia, all over the place. So in order to manage supply across all of these regions, my role exists for each of the berries. And so really what we do is we work with the extended teams throughout the regions to plan acreage that's going into the ground for each of the regions, to talk about dates and the times of the year that we want to prune things. So we're always just sort of manipulating the production curve. Trying to avoid is creating these huge valleys and peaks that we just can't manage. Not only from a sales perspective, and that we wouldn't be able to, you know, offer a customer 100,000 crates one week and 1 million the next. That wouldn't be very fair to them. But also from a farming standpoint, where a grower wouldn't be able to realistically harvest that either. It's putting all of that together, creating a curve, a production curve that works for growers, that's profitable for both the grower and the Driscoll's side of the business. So bringing all of that together.
So do you use a lot of technology in order to do this, or is it more about those relationships like you were kind of referring to earlier, when you're the job you're in now, but when you were a specialist, you would get these calls? So is it more of, or is it some combination of like the people side of things and being in the field and working with the farmers in the different regions and also utilizing technology? And what kinds of technology, if you do, what kinds of things do you use?
Yeah, I wish I could say that it is more technology based. That's the vision, right? To be able to visit a field and just, you know, look at your iPad and enter everything.
Magic.
Away. Yes, that would be beautiful. But no, at the end of the day, it is about those relationships and just constant communication, not only with each representative in the regions, but it's really about that person and how they're communicating with the growers. Because anywhere from our smallest region having maybe 12 growers to a region in Mexico where our growers, their land base is small. We have a community grower project where we really focus on small acres per grower, family owned type of thing, locally grown, and individuals that invest their money within the local community. So there are regions with hundreds of growers. So you can imagine that, you know, a person has to get creative to constantly talk to so many people. But anyway, so at the end of the day, it's really about that constant communication, that trust amongst the team to really just provide the most accurate, trustworthy information that they can. But in terms of technology and what we do use, I mean, I would say it's more basic than anything. But, you know, obviously our phones, texting, WhatsApp, any type of communication, sending ourselves videos, pictures of what we're seeing in field. You know, just let's say that your forecast projections are falling very short of volume, or your volume is falling short, and someone sends you a picture, see, this is the pest damage we're having, you know, across 100 acres. Things like this, using Zoom, FaceTime, etc. And then as far as computer software, things like that, Excel continues to be the main platform. We have millions of spreadsheets, but we are working currently on a project that would have or create for us a web-based application that would link everything. So it's coming. I think that's something that we'll have ready later this year. On the GIS side of things, which is what we use to measure our acres and our fields, we do use GPS units. We try to strive for sub-meter accuracy, so it is important to have the right unit available. We partner up with Esri, if you're familiar. Esri, they're sort of like the software behind GIS. And so we have a GIS platform that they've built for us to be able to track, there's, I think, roughly 15,000 producing acres in North America of raspberries alone.
15,000 in North America. Yeah, and I was going to ask you about, I would assume that being able to speak fluent Spanish has been something that has been very helpful for you in your job, and is that something that's required, with the kind of work that you do, or is it just something that is helpful but not necessarily required?
I would say it is preferred.
Yeah.
There are exceptions. I definitely have colleagues that do not speak Spanish, but they're also not shy individuals, they'll communicate however they can.
Yes.
The point is to get your thoughts across.
Yes.
But it is most definitely helpful to be bilingual, yes.
Mm-hmm. And actually, I was interested to know more about your growers, because I think that people, they see Driscolls, they think of it, and it is a very large company, right? It's a multinational, huge company. But my understanding is that many of your growers are quite small. And so I'd love to hear more about whether it's in the Salinas, Monterey area, Central Coast, or other parts of the world. You were talking a little bit about that in Mexico, about how small many of the owners, the growers are. So maybe talk to us a little bit about how that works. How does Driscolls work with growers?
So there is an independent grower model, as I explained, but what that means is that a grower is, one way to put it would be renting the varieties, the genetics from Driscolls. Mm-hmm. But as soon as he plants them in his field, it's his decisions that really make the difference, right? Mm-hmm. Growing practices, fertilizing, irrigation, and just overall management. So how Driscolls works with growers, I would say it varies depending on the region. There are regions in which we partner very closely with our sister company, which is Ryder, if you have heard of Ryder Brothers. So they're sort of the growing side of Driscolls. So there's regions where we're just doing work with them. You can see them as sort of the innovator, right? They're the ones that are willing to go into a region where we've never grown before and just try it. And maybe it succeeds, maybe it fails, but they have that ability to do that. And then in other regions, like the one in Mexico that I mentioned, Jocotepec, they really focus on that community and getting the local population involved. I don't know too much about it. I just know that there are ranches that are, only a few acres of production. And so really the focus there is just providing a family a resource for living. And so I think that's wonderful in that we have that program. I know it's a little tougher in California where, everything is just so much more expensive, and it's just difficult for someone like myself, that doesn't farm, to jump into farming.
Right.
It's a huge investment in the state. Yeah.
Absolutely. So obviously with COVID-19, there's a lot of disruptions, and probably to your job as well. So what's changed for you in your role in this last month to 6 weeks? And what do you see also going forward in terms of changes in how you're doing forecasting and supply management?
So in the beginning, I would say maybe this kicked off maybe 5 weeks ago, I think, 5-6 weeks ago. That's my mom.
There's Mama. Hola. Hola, Mama.
Hola.
Buenos
Working
dias.
from home.
Yes.
Yeah, so as this kicked off maybe 5-6 weeks ago, we weren't really seeing much of an impact, and I think we were all just sort of carrying on as usual. We were a couple weeks into it, we did start preparing for worst case scenario, which for us would mean we can't move the fruit, we can't pick the fruit, right? So the options then are what we call diversion. And so Driscoll's is a fresh product company, right? We focus 100% on selling fresh berries, delightful berries in the market. And so sending fruit to process, which means anything from like jam options for berries or frozen items for berries, is really a tool that we only use during times of crisis or when we're oversupplied and we just can't move things in the market. But so anyway, 2 weeks into this, we started thinking, well, we might as well prepare. We don't know what's coming. So we started making plans for that. And then now, you know, about a week and a half ago, things just started really slowing down in the marketplace. Demand softened is what we, so what our business product managers have identified is that as soon as supermarkets started really enforcing the social distancing factor in terms of limiting the people allowed in stores, things like that, we really started to see things slow down. And so we're currently in the peak of our production, usually going into May, June, it's our highest demand period. And so obviously in planning out that production curve, it's when we plan for this peak of volume of availability. So it's here, it's what we planned for, and it's here, but we're having a tough time selling about 10% of that volume. So what we've done is that we've asked our growers to limit the amount of fruit that they bring to our coolers. So that means that we're having to either send fruit to process, which is one option, and the other option is, you know, stopping their harvest altogether and possibly mowing down or disking the field if needed. And so that's really the last thing we want to ask a grower to do, right? Is, hey, you've invested all of this money. Sorry, we won't be able to sell it. It's time to disc it under. But at the same time, our growers have communicated that they would prefer to stay ahead of things. So if they need to mow something down now, they'd rather do that versus finding themselves with, you know, a labor force to manage as they're having to divert fruit.
Sure. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. You know, it's true. I mean, we all want the fresh berries, but there's plenty of great products to be made with those wonderful fresh berries too. Not as high in terms of your return on in dollars, but at least they're getting utilized. So I know it's tough though to make those decisions with regards to harvest and the manpower and woman power needed to harvest, which is significant with berries.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of questions. So Kaylee Ann, I'm going to start with you, and Leti, if you want to unmute her line so that she can ask her question. Great to see you and hear from you, Kaylee.
Yeah, so my question is, of all the different commodities that you have, which is the most profitable? Like, say someone was trying to get into the diversified agriculture side rather than just focusing on one commodity. If they wanted, you know, to start growing some type of, you know, berry, which one would be most profitable of them all?
Yeah, good question. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. That I just think it's a wonderful question because from a business standpoint, that's exactly what you should be thinking about, right? Diversifying your portfolio. So the most profitable berry, I believe, is blackberries at this time. We are undersupplied. And when I say undersupplied, I mean under normal circumstances, not these COVID circumstances. But in general, blackberries, there's just potential for growth. I don't know the specifics because I don't work closely with the berry. But I do know that that's where our growers are most interested in continuing to grow their acreage blackberries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know that many of our growers around here, smaller growers that are, part of the California Farm Academy alumni, anybody that's got blackberries is doing very well. So that's interesting that you guys are seeing that on the larger markets as well, because I would agree that that's what we see. If anyone can do any kind of blackberries around here, they do very well. So.
Yeah.
And then let's see, I think Dana had a question as well. Dana, you want to go ahead?
Sure, I did, Crystal. I was curious, what percentage of your produce goes to the retail market industry side versus the food service industry? Obviously, with the COVID-19, we've heard from a lot of farmers that, the retail side hasn't taken as big of a hit as the food service side. So kind of curious how that works for the berries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's also a great question. For raspberries, because I don't know the answers for the berry patch. For raspberries, about 10% of our berries go to food service versus the rest going to wholesale, retail, etc. Just checking because my screen froze, but can you?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead and keep going. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
You're back.
So 10% roughly going to food service. And then now during these conditions, it's completely, that branch of sales is completely gone, and we're just focused on retail.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful, thank you.
No problem.
If anybody else has any questions, let me know. Crystal, we've reached our half an hour, but I wanted to give you an option, last chance to say anything about whether it's about Driscolls, whether it's about your experience in farms, whether it's some tips and advice to students out there who are looking at jobs or colleges in the near future, and anything you wanted to pass on to them would be great to finish out this morning.
Awesome, thank you. Well, I just want to say thank you to the group here for inviting me to do this chat. I was a little nervous, but wow, half an hour really did fly by. And aside from that, I think really the message that I try to pass on is do internships, because wow, do they really help you just learn the realities of these different opportunities out there. And really, I hope that students see it as like this checklist where you can just cross things off, experience them, and either decide that you love the experience and want to pursue something similar to that, or you know what, no, I want to get away. So just, take advantage and network. And I think, all of the individuals on this call are resources for you guys to really just meet people and get out there. It just goes such a long way. You never know, someone that you meet today can be, a colleague later in the future, or, so just take advantage of everything, and good luck to everyone. And hopefully I get to see you guys in the ag world.
I know. Well, thank you, Crystal. And again, we really, all of us appreciate all the support from Driscolls and your support. You've helped put on Farms Field Days in the Monterey, Santa Cruz region. I know that everybody always loves the tastings that you help put on. Those are very popular for, not surprised, but tastings of fresh berries and new varieties are always really fun for the students to experience. So again, thanks for everything you've done over the years for us and supporting our ongoing programs. And hopefully we'll be able to have some interns at Driscolls at some point in the future.
Yes.
And we'll catch up with you on the other side of this time that we have right now going on in our world, and hopefully we'll all be the better for it in some way, shape, or form, and look forward to talking with you then. So thanks again, and have a great day.
Agreed. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.